Welcome to episode 56 of the Loane Hockey Podcast. For today, we're going to be talking about a 2025 draft eligible prospect from Djurgården in the SHL. That is Anton Frondell. Now, Anton Frondell, he's actually been playing some preseason games with Djurgården, and I've watched some film on him thus far, and he's actually looked really good positionally in terms of his instincts and understanding the flow of the game and understanding the pace and really adapting and really starting to adapt to the SHL style more often. And he obviously got a handful of games in last year with the SHL squad in Djurgården, but when you look at him this year, obviously he's transformed a little bit, and there's still going to be a lot more layers to his game he's going to continue to add over time as well. But his game and how he's continued to trend and how positive his upside is heading into the future as a consensus top draft pick, not necessarily the first overall, but around the first at least two, three, potentially five slots. And so with Frondell, you're getting a very complete player. He reminds me a little bit positionally in terms of Patrice Bergeron, in terms of the instincts and understanding how to get to his routes on time, understanding how to stop on pucks, understanding how to stop and support the puck effectively. So there's Bergeron like puck support ability and instincts with his defensive play and habits. And there's also a little bit of Jonathan Toews in him in terms of the power in his game and the raw ability in his game to be able to take over sometimes. And that power, that raw finesse, and that the raw skill that Frondell is able to have really allows him to transform his game and transform his instincts when he's on the ice. So he can utilize a lot of different ways of creating offense. And you're getting a guy who's very versatile as a natural center and a guy who can shoot the puck, but he can also dish as well, and he can do it really effectively. And he's a player who's a dual threat by far. He understands the layers of the game. He understands the complexities of being a passer and how to pass through seams, how to pass through sticks, how to pass through small windows of space. And then you look at his shooting ability. He can shoot from interior space effectively. I would like to see a little bit more deception hidden in his shot, but you look at his shot makeup and how he can weight transfer, and it's already a really good foundational point for him. And so heading into the future, it'll be interesting to see how he continues to trend and continues to develop. And he's really fun to watch in his neutral zone play and his routes as well. I really like his positioning, his off puck positioning, understanding when to swing away, understanding when to swing to the puck and support his teammates. He understands timing and pace and rhythm really well to many different components of his game. This is mostly in D zone, neutral zone though. And understanding the rhythm is really hard to do, especially when you're playing the SHL at this age. But the good thing is for his development is that he doesn't need to play U20 in Sweden anymore because he's outgrown that league and he can dominate that league by far. So the next test is obviously the SHL, and the SHL is obviously a bigger step up compared to U20s. But for him, it's going to be a big development opportunity because it'll allow him to really use cognitive perception and really understand how to leverage his brain, leverage his hockey sense more than ever. So he can adapt positively to the league in terms of his hockey sense and utilizing that consistently. And he's a player that's very smart. Like I said, off the puck, he's really aware. He understands rhythm and flow and timing. And then on the puck, he's really smart with understanding how to escape players. He's understanding how to use body positioning, how to get around guys. And he's still working on that a little bit more. You still see some one-on-one plays where he tries to extend the play, but he ends up losing the puck, or he moves the puck into a bad position and loses it a little easier. So some of it's panic threshold and trying to adjust to that and trying to understand how to calm themselves in certain situations. And like any young player, they're going to have to take time to develop. So Frondell, he'll be a guy that if he plays consistently and continues to get better, he could play consistently in that top nine in Djurgården for sure. He could be a guy early in the year who could be a checker, especially playing in the Champions League and throughout the early rounds of that as well, depending on how they trend in the Champions League throughout the rest of the year. And so Frondell, he's really skilled in general. You're getting a player who understands the ebbs and flows of the game. He understands the details. He understands habits. He understands how to move. He understands positional foundation. Again, he's strong in the puck. He's strong in his skates. So you're not going to knock him off the puck super easily per se. And you're getting power forward like player who can really control space effectively. And that's what's really intriguing about him too, is he isn't necessarily the biggest, but he plays a slighter power game. He has some power to his game in terms of how he can make plays and how he can veer around pressure and how he can use his speed and those elements like that, and how he can use his strength, of course, as well. And Frondell is an interesting study. I've watched a lot of his U20 play, and his U20 play has been absolutely dominant, especially last year when watching it. It's like he knew he needed to play up another level because that was not a test for him anymore. He was understanding everything a little too easily in that league. So it became much easier for him to develop in that league. And but he wasn't necessarily developing his actual hockey sense and his actual skill set, because when you're playing down competition, you're not necessarily developing any true fundamental skills. You might be having a little bit more fun because you're competing, you're getting pucks to you, you're playing top line minutes, whatever it may be. But at the same time, is it really going to help your development? Is it really going to make you a better player? Not necessarily. So with Frondell, that step up is going to be important for him. He might get a little bit more frustrated than usual because he's used to playing so well in the U20s and U18s. And he might get a little frustrated because of that, because he's so used to dominating and so used to playing top line minutes. And now in Djurgården, he isn't necessarily guaranteed that same amount of ice time. He isn't necessarily guaranteed power play time, not necessarily guaranteed top penalty kill time as well. So there's going to be a lot of different things that will be interesting to see how he develops with that, how he adapts with that, and how he's able to make progress on it over time. And he could be a player that could very well make the Swedish World Junior team, depending on how he plays. And sometimes Sweden isn't really afraid to take consensus guys for the top picks of the draft. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Frondell on that initial camp roster and then thus the actual roster once they make the cuts. And he'll be an interesting player to watch if he does play more internationally, because more people will be able to see him live. And you aren't necessarily able to see a ton of them live because there's not as much access, public access to video for your garden and even their U20 system. So having that international exposure could really benefit him. And if he's able to make the U20s, if he's able to play in any other international comps beyond that point. So Brundell's a really interesting player. I really enjoy watching him, and he's going to be a player who definitely hears his name called in the top five in the 2025 NHL draft.